satisfactory population. So looking at this,
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations. We're looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And of course, we're focused on the people who are actually inventing and identifying and embracing the various technologies, the innovations, everything that's needed to move us forward as we go towards 2050, when we'll be adding another 2 billion people to the planet. So we'll be going to above the 7 billion we have right now to about 9 billion, and how we're going to be able to take care of all those individuals once they're on the planet. And we have someone that's looking at this, not from the standpoint that we won't be able to do it, but the fact is that we're going to be able to increase the quality of life for all these new souls that we're going to put on here. His name is Charles H. Botwick. He is the managing partner of the Dulles Tech and Trade Center. And welcome back, Chuck, to the Emerald Planet.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
And we're going to have some of your slides, if we can go ahead and bring that up. But what is the Dulles Tech and Trade Center?
Well, we conceived of a permanent facility located just outside Washington, D.C., which is focused on emergency preparedness, disaster recovery, and sustainable development. It's a unique, one-of-a-kind facility, unlike any in the world.
Well, I think it's really interesting, and I know that you have a number of seminars and training sessions and all that, and this is actually the building that you're using at this time. But it's really fantastic that you're actually reaching out to the globe from that. So you're in Mongolia, you have people going into Peru, many other countries around the globe. So why did you really start with this international focus rather than being US-centric?
Well, the needs of the globe are very intense for end-to-end solutions to integrate technology from wherever it comes from. Today, we have a very complex world that's growing quickly and requires complete solutions, not just individual products. So we're very focused to look worldwide at both finding technologies and also to package them together for end-to-end solutions for end users.
Well, I know looking at the Dulles Tech and Trade Center is that you really are looking at this as solutions, which is a unique concept because people have a particular technology, they may have some services that relate to that, products as well. But what you're looking at is not looking at it in any of these discrete areas, but you're looking at solutions and also taking those solutions and even enhancing and improving through innovation. How do you do that?
Well, we know that everything is everywhere connected. You need power to run medical systems, you need power to run communications. And so we're looking at taking disparate technologies, packaging them together into new value-added solutions, providing a unique value proposition for technology innovators to have their technologies to be packaged and to get new market penetration in the world, and for end users that have complex problems to find complete solutions in one place. Everything put together in one place.
Well, looking at that, and as far as putting this together, the end solutions, the packaging concept of this is really something that's new as far as the world is concerned, because people are looking at it, you're dealing with malaria, so we need bed nets, or we may need a way to, spray the mosquitoes, these kinds of things. You're looking at how do we produce better water? How do we provide food that's adequate for the people? How do we have new technology it's not poisonous? So when you're looking at it, what kind of experts, because I know you're having this think tank that you've created through the center. So what is this think tank? What is it for start with, but what's it going to be doing?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. A key component of the center is providing a think tank, which is a group of highly experienced individuals in broad domains. We're very fortunate in the Washington area to have almost an endless supply of subject matter experts in almost any domain or any specialty you can imagine, and speaking almost any language. So the think tank is meant to look at technologies from vendors and to pre-qualify them that they are applicable to broad solutions, and in turn provide complete solutions and value to end users by taking a look intelligently at complex problems for whole countries or individual companies, whatever the end user might be.
I know you're looking at this as far as the technologies, the innovations. Resiliency is really one of those underbed themes that you have. But networking is such a huge part of that, and I know you have these literally hundreds of people that have these backgrounds, but how you're tying that network to the world?
Well, I think our network is perhaps peerless in the world. We have, through all these member companies that provide technology, and also all the resident experts, really an unprecedented set of connections around the world. Also here in Washington, we have resident over 200 embassies. We have all the major non-governmental organizations of the world, multilateral institutions, other think tanks. So the connectedness of this area to the world is unique.
Well, looking at this, I know the whole thing about, you have the non-governmental organizations, you have the embassies, government agencies, and actually government agencies of the world here, because you have representatives from Asia, Europe, Latin America, Africa. The whole continent is actually resides here. Research institutions, major universities from around the globe that are located here. But this whole integration thing, vertical and horizontal, which is really a new paradigm shift as far as putting this all together in collaboration as the core of this whole idea. So how do you do that, vertical and the horizontal integration?
Well, because we have to, because the problems of the world are not simple. So what we do is we look at, for example, in a disaster scenario, when you mobilize, you have to consider shelter, water, power, communications, security, logistics. All these things are interrelated. If you don't take account of certain aspects of the whole system, you're going to have unintended consequences, and if you're in a development scenario for permanent infrastructure, you're going to make poor investments.
Yeah, well, looking at this, going beyond just the vertical and horizontal integration that we're talking about, you're really also at the same time through the think tank, but in the center itself, you want to have training and also this collaboration to develop and bring about improvements, the innovation aspect of that. So looking at the training, you're going beyond products, technologies, services, now into the training component. Right. So how does that really fit into all of this?
Training is a big part of the center. As a benefit for vendors and innovators of technology, they have the opportunity to actually train end users in how to use their technology, or distributors or sales people, for example. For end user groups, they can conduct training sessions within the center and at the same time be surrounded by all sorts of solutions instead of just perhaps being in a hotel room when they do their training.
Yeah, I think this is something, this photograph really shows this as far as what you're talking about. And actually you can broadcast to the world from this very center, but looking at that as far as the Dulles Tech and Trade Center itself, you're looking already to replicate this. So you have small countries, or smallish countries, I guess we should say, like a Mongolia or Peru, and then you have India, China, Nigeria. So I mean, these are very diverse countries and on different continents. So as you're reaching out, how do you replicate across all these very diverse countries?
Well, the whole focus of technology and solutions is to be locally applicable. And in doing so, our vision is to create additional centers in other parts of the world that focus on local requirements, but bring resources from the broad network of centers that will develop in different parts of the world.
Looking at working and reaching out, I know there's a number of investors that have taken a real interest as far as the Dulles Center itself is concerned. What's some of the special challenges that you have, but also the opportunities of matching the investors to these disparate opportunities around the globe?
Well, for innovators, venture capitalists, different manufacturers, the Dulles Center offers a chance to lower the cost and give a true value proposition to getting into new markets by being part of a total end-to-end solution as opposed to just selling, say, an individual widget. So this offers a good return on investment, a good value proposition because of the great network of resources and talent, the think tank, and also I should mention that we have a dedicated business development group that is focused on looking at these individual markets, what their specific needs are, and to come up with recommendations.
Chuck, as you know, we never have enough time when we chat here. Looking at the future as far as the Dulles Technology and Trade Center, what do you see for the future, say the next 5, 10, 15 years as we move towards 2050?
Well, I think when you take a global perspective on resources and technology, there's so much going on that we're learning every week of new potential solutions, new products, new needs, so that as we go forward, I'm very optimistic that we'll continue to be a very strong one-stop shop with incredible resources as we continue to build our network for best practices globally.
You have about 30 seconds. I know this is something that you've really been shepherding for many, many years yourself. What do you see each day you get up, you go to work, and you say what?
I say, what's going to be the surprise today in terms of learning about something new, receiving a new challenge, and so on.
That's absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you for being with us. This is Charles H. Botwick, Managing Partner, the Dulles Tech and Trade Center, and then also with the tech resource that you're developing over there, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. And thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products, and of course the people that are making a difference as we move towards 2050. And why 2050? In 2050 we'll have about 9 billion souls on the planet. Climate change will be accelerating at an ever increased pace. And we have to figure out how we're going to provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, and the basic infrastructure for all these people. And that basic infrastructure goes beyond just roads and bridges and ports and airplanes, but also the education and the health care and all the other things. And we have a gentleman who's really working on this area as far as the energy is concerned. And we're going to talk with him a little bit about looking at the energy that he's actually focused on, which is somewhat surprising, and at the same time how he's matching that, creating energy and looking at sustainable nutrition. So this is Dr. Daman S. Walia. He is the President and CEO of ARCTECH Inc. And Daman, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Well, thank you very much.
And tell us a little bit about your company, ARCTECH, and then we're going to talk about the unique focus that your company has that many other people have been actually forgetting about over the last 20 or 30 years.
Well, you know, our company's focus is on the biotechnology and especially, focused on creating what I call balanced sustainability solutions using coal as a feedstock. And our solutions are designed to meet the needs of our 7 billion people today and growing to 9 billion, and at the same time, meeting the needs of the planet. I kind of describe, what you see on the slide there, that our 7 billion of us, we have certain, must-haves and our wants, desires. Same way we have for our planet, what we must have and want and desires. So our focus is more on the must-haves. In terms of our human needs, the energy, food, water, and shelter, of course. And in the case of planet, to maintain our, the healthy soils, the water, the atmosphere.
Yeah, and what you're doing, Daman, is you're trying to balance this whole notion of the human needs, but at the same time, we really tend to forget that the planet itself has its own needs. We think it kind of cures itself. Yeah. But when you're going from 7 to 9 billion new people, and then we're saying as, well, the planet's going to take care of itself, it'll heal and cure itself, and the answer may be no. And so looking at your system and the types of innovation and technology you're developing, how are you actually helping the planet to cure itself and to sustain and take care of the 9 billion people we'll have by 2050?
Well, as I mentioned, our focus is using coal as a feedstock. The why coal? Coal, everybody is now...
Well, I'm going to stop you right there because, coal is really, is something that most people don't even want to talk about, let alone use. And there are a number of countries around the world that we won't even talk about. They're using lots and lots of coal. And this was really the fossil fuel. This was the carbon of the 19th and the 20th century. A little bit back, of course, back in the 18th century. But it's like you're reverting back to where we were. But yet you're saying this is really one of the most advanced ways to move society forward, both from energy but also from nutrition.
That is correct.
How do you extract that and balance these two out?
Well, first, I'm intrigued with coal because this is the lowest cost carbon we have, available to all of us on all continents. That's number one, and it's a plentiful. And this coal has been the basis of our first industrial revolution, which has brought us to where we are today. And we become wiser. We have learned that with our approach of using it has caused us some challenges. So we need to now look at another approach. So what really we have created a way out by which we can take coal using a biotechnology to convert it into clean fuels, as well as organic.
And I think they call it syn fuels, right? Synthetic fuels?
Not
Is
really.
that another name?
Well, you can call it a synthetic fuel because anything you make, would be, come into that category. So we can make into gas, we can convert this into diesel or jet fuels, or it can be converted into chemicals. But the most important, what we have done is coal is essentially being of a plant origin, is made up of humic material, which is the same as in the soil organic matter. So we actually have a plant here in Virginia. We're producing these products which are being used for growing foods. We can take.
Let's stop for just 1 minute, Daman. We're talking about humic. This is something that we've not really talked about on the EmeraldPlanet. We've talked about biochar, biomass.
Right.
We've talked about different products out there. But this thing about humic material, for the non-scientists out there, what is humic material?
Well, this is the most unique to our planet. This is essentially what makes our planet to be viable, as well as makes us viable. It's we generally call it a humus. The word comes from the Romans. They recognize that the soils which are rich in humic matter, you can put a seed in there and harvest very quickly. And so, this has been known. It's something our planet, the soil systems have been blessed with having this organic humic material, but we're depleting it. There's been a rapid loss of this humus material from the soils. So coal being of a plant origin, we have learned to make into a humic material, which can be then used to replenish the soils. And it's been approved by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, for growing organic foods, EPA. We have a number of government approvals. We then also make into another product, which is a water filter. And the third thing, which is to me still is astonishing, even though I've done it, that we convert using this material to convert bombs and explosives into fertilizer.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. And I really want to go back to these approvals that you have, because I think most people, when you say coal and approved for growing food,
yes,
and that you have the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, you have the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and others all saying that this is something that's viable, it's good for the planet, and many people are saying, really?
Well, not only that, we have an approval in China from the Bureau of Ag. In fact, my product is currently being used in China. And so this is really, we've done it really very systematic science, and and produce the data as well as information to make a case that the products we are making are safe. And the other underpinning of this whole approach is to create what I call a total value chain use. So what you're seeing on your screen right now is where we can apply this to the mine coals, as well as there's a huge amount of coal which still is unminable. Coal is like an iceberg. We only see one part. The 9 parts are below.
Yeah, we're looking at the coal, and as far as extraction, there's been a great movement against, the mountaintop mining of coal, where you're just literally cutting off it and then pushing it down into the valleys below. And then, of course, you have the deep sea mining, but also then you have the open pit mining. So looking at coal, how, looking at the various sources of coal, how do we balance that and make sure that we're, really enhancing what's going on in the environment, and we're not decreasing or degrading the environment in any way by using coal?
Well, see, number one, we need to help coal companies to make a lot more money. So far, they're just working on a very, very low margins. With my technology, we created 250 times more value from a ton of coal than they do it now. So they have more funds to be able to address all of these issues. I'm not for mining coal in a way which will cause environmental issues. We can do it
because we all have to live on the same planet, regardless of what's going on.
Right, and also we are being able to inject these microbes into the unminable coal and produce gas, so we don't have to send the miners into these deep into the holes, which is really, I've been in the coal mines on my knees, so I know. So here is what you're seeing on your screen is right now an example of use of my product for growing soybean in Minnesota. And here is a farmer who used this product, and you can just see from the size of the soybeans are bigger. He's gotten a 20% increase in yield. The nitrogen content in the soybean is almost 18-20% higher, which means that these soybeans are high in proteins. This is just one example. If you go on my website, you will see many examples of use of my product in all over the world.
Daman, let's just stop right here looking at this. Okay, so we increase the productivity by 15-20%.
Right.
We're increasing the size, also the protein values of that. What does that mean for a farmer, say, in Nigeria or India or Uganda or Vietnam, all these places? What does that mean to them as far as lifestyle and income, and then also investment back into the community?
See, biggest challenge in farmers in these countries have been they're a subsistence farmer. So they make only enough to just feed themselves. And whereas in our Western countries, we have farmers with a very large, tracts of lands, and they are production farmers. So with our approach, we can help them to increase yield, get a higher value for their products, and so they can actually be making money instead of just, subsistence. So countries like India, big challenge, they cannot add any more farmland.
Well, actually, it's decreasing because of going down into the aquifers that are now putting water that has high salt content, and so you're actually decreasing constantly the amount of land available, not just by population expansion and growth of cities and townships and housing, but at the same time it's just actually taking agricultural lands out of production. So in what you're doing, how can you take these millions of acres, say in a country of India, and actually bring them back into productivity?
Well, see, we can take, like in Egypt, for example, our product is being used to, increase the tolerance to the high salinity. Because even in Egypt, all that fertile land is, they've now built up metropolis. So the farmers are out there in the desert land, cultivating, and they're doing wonders. But it's, taking a lot of water. So our product is helping them to, deal with arid conditions, in terms of dealing with the salinity issues. This is a remarkable science. It's nothing new. Our nature has been using this science for centuries. And so all we have done is used our modern science technology to kind of bring it to a point, in a mode so that it can be applied and be made available to the farmers all over the world.
Daman, we only have about 15 seconds left. What do you see for the future of ARCTECH over the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, I want to, basically I believe that we have a way to create a next industrial revolution, and we want to build these coal plants all over the world.
Okay, that's fantastic, because you're taking a natural resource right now that really is worldwide. Many people are against it. What you're doing is bringing it back into vogue with new technologies. And thank you for being with us as we're looking for new technologies, best practices as we create the Emerald Planet.
Well,
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo. I would like to speak English better. Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of Emerald Planet. We're coming to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe for those 1,000 best practices in over 144 different nations. And the reason we're doing that is we want to bring you really the best of the best as we move forward through the 21st century, and at the same time to identify how we're going to be able to bring about the technologies, the services, and the products, along with the people that really are going to make a difference. Because we're adding 2 billion new people. We're going to go to 9 billion souls on the planet by 2050. And so we need to have the food, the fuel, the fiber, and the infrastructure that's needed for that. We have someone who is coming to us that's actually working on all this, really looking at innovation, really the balance, I think, through innovation and technology. This is Stephanie Carnes. She's the Managing Director of what's called the Chesapeake Crescent Initiative, CCI. And Stephanie, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad to have you here, and anybody that's a managing director we want to have on the Emerald Planet, because we know that you're working very diligently for what it is that you're doing. But tell us, what is the Chesapeake Crescent Initiative, the CCI, and why the name Chesapeake?
Certainly. The Chesapeake Crescent Initiative is a regional collaborative, and we aim to advance innovation in life sciences, energy, and security in our region. And our regional footprint is Delaware, the state of Maryland, the District of Columbia, and Virginia. And so you asked about the Chesapeake,
yes,
and why that's in the name. If you look at the Mid-Atlantic region, and specifically our region, a key geographic focal point is the Chesapeake Bay. It's something that ties our region together, and so that's why it's a part of our name.
Well, you know, this is an economic engine as well as a environmental area. Where you're talking about the state of Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and of course the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And when you're looking at the Chesapeake Bay, we have a tendency to think about, you know, the bay as something as smallish and all that, but it has such a huge footprint.
Absolutely.
And it's just amazing that we really don't understand just how large this whole region is. And at the same time, you have all this coming from the west, through this area into the Chesapeake Bay, and actually we're directly impacting the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes.
So when you look at what you're doing, it's really in its Atlantic impact and footprint that you have. So how do you manage something that has that huge an area so that you're then balancing this technology and innovation together, tying life sciences?
I think that we have a lot of help, and we work with a number of different types of partners. We work with the federal government quite a bit, the entire alphabet soup, OMB, Office of Management and Budget, the Department of Homeland Security, DOE, just to name a few. We also work, we are chaired by the governors of Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia, as well as the mayor of the District of Columbia. So we work very often with state and local governments. And then we are tied, very connected to the private sector as well, major corporations in our area, as well as through academia, through the 11 major research universities in our region.
That is just incredible to think you're doing all this. I mean, to say grace over, you know, just a portion of that is one thing, but to have that, and these are very dynamic states, and yet they're quite different. They're in the same region, but you know, you have this long history of Virginia, you know, the legislature starting in 1619, you know, which is longer than actually the central governments of many countries around the globe, and particularly states in the United States. And so you really have very old cultures here that, you know, even in terms of the United States, 400 years is not a short period of time. So in looking at innovation, this area has been innovating, and many patents and trademarks and intellectual processes over, you know, these many years. So what does innovation mean to the CCI, which may be totally congruent with everyone else, or maybe slightly unique?
I think the way that we've looked at innovation has evolved over time as we've worked with different partners, and I think it means quite a bit of a different thing depending on whether you're talking to academics or private industry. But for us, primarily, one focus has been on the development of technology, and more specifically, the commercialization of research and development. Our region, we're very, very lucky in that I think we're tops in R&D investment. But we still have more to do when it comes to commercializing that research and really bringing it to market. So what we try to do is help that process along. But it doesn't stop there. It's not just simply supporting the startup community and such. There are other factors involved, because sometimes you may have the perfect technology and it may already exist. So it's not really an issue of creating this next new invention. It's actually, there might be barriers to getting that to market, and those might be policy barriers, financial barriers, educational barriers. And so when we look at innovation, we want to make sure that we also tackle issues and try to see if we can overcome those barriers through innovations in policy development or innovative financing mechanisms.
Well, looking at the colleges and universities, this is something that you and I really didn't talk about when we were chatting before the program. But looking at the land-grant universities, and then you have the other major research universities. So as an example, in Virginia you have the land-grant university, Virginia Tech. And then you have, of course, a very established world-famous University of Virginia.
Absolutely.
So what kinds of things are you doing with the major research universities, and then how would that be similar or maybe different with the land-grant universities with each of the states?
We work with them in a variety of different ways. One aspect is that we do have a technology portal. And it's essentially a matchmaking service, much like a dating website. And it's filled with innovations from the federal laboratories in our region, as well as some of the universities that you mentioned as well. And we hope to connect those with investors or other major corporations who might be interested in sponsoring more research in that regard. But basically, matching innovations to hopefully entrepreneurs that maybe want to take the licensed technologies and take them to market.
This is something that's quite unique in the United States. I know that there are other countries such as Germany, Australia, even France and other countries where they're now involving their universities and commercializing a lot of the research. But for probably a couple of hundred years, the United States was actually unique in that of actually doing research through professors and eliminating this gown to town kind of divisions that you have in many of the quote unquote ivory towers of the universities. So through the Chesapeake Crescent initiative, how have you actually helped to dissolve some of those issues, not only between the universities and private business, but also government agencies to private businesses into the universities, and then to the nonprofits, non-governmental organizations?
Well, I'm not sure that we can take all of the credit for the changes.
Well, that's okay. You can take some of that.
No. Because all of our partners have been just tremendous, and they really get it, and they're civic minded. They want to do what's best for our region. But with respect to universities, for example, I think that you're entirely correct in that they're moving from a place where it's only solely scholarship, but also using commercialization as a factor for tenure or changing their internal policies. In that regard, I think you see it with the students of these institutions, their interest in creating their own startups or creating their own funds and to manage, which has been tremendous. With the federal government, we've been so lucky to work with so many different agencies. I think that they are also incredibly civic minded, and they're also part of our community. They are residents here, and so they do care about what happens in our region and making sure that we continue to be economically robust.
Well, I know that resiliency is a term now that's really, it's a hot topic.
Absolutely.
And it's been around for a long time, but now it's really coming to the fore as there's more dynamic climate change that are going on. The number of category 6 through 8 earthquakes, natural disasters as far as flooding, and then the other side of that is drought. So, and this is going across NAFTA, it's around the globe. So how is the CCI working to look at these issues and then see how we can actually work at this so in advance of all these different disasters that we're actually planning properly for this, and so that we're actually, people are not, you know, just reacting to a disaster, but they're planning for and doing things that will address some of these long-term issues.
I think you've hit the nail on the head when you're talking about really integrating in the urban planning or the planning for response to these types of disasters, instead of simply focusing on, okay, what do we do when something goes wrong? And I think in terms of U.S. policy, there was really a change after Superstorm Sandy in the way that even the federal government decided to respond to it. So you see innovations in the way that that many agencies are working together across agency lines, and that their choices in terms of how to move forward and rebuild really take into account, you know, how do we design this so that we don't face these types of issues in the first place.
Well, going to resiliency, this is something you talk about, and I'm glad you brought up this about the Storm Sandy and the impact on New York City, New York State, New Jersey, a lot of going up the East Coast of the United States, because we realize that storm surges, sea level rise is very alive and well. And many people don't realize that on the East Coast, just like Washington, D.C., most of the capital city is only 3 feet above sea level. Yes. And so if you get this huge storm surge that would move, you know, through the Chesapeake Bay up the Potomac River, you know, it's huge, the billions and billions of dollars of damage that would occur in that. So how do we make ourselves resilient, and how is the CCI being a part of that resiliency?
I think the first...
Oh, and we're running out of time,
okay,
so we got to be quick.
Okay, the first thing that we need to do is really bring the right people together. So Superstorm Sandy was correct in bringing multiple agencies and then taking a look at the issues in terms of how we can plan for the future and make sure that we do, that we plan to make sure that our cities are both smart and safe.
Smart and safe.
Yes.
I think that's a good way to lead this whole thing. This is Stephanie Carnes. She's the Managing Director of the Chesapeake Crescent Initiative, CCI. Thank you for being with us. And it's really interesting to see this balance between the technology, innovation, resiliency as we move forward. And thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
I helped turn my child's public school into a whole new kind of school. One with a curriculum that really motivates kids. One that has extended hours, 6 days a week, year-round. With loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One that has support services like medical and dental right there. A school where parents' involvement is encouraged, where teachers have more time to teach, and students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. You can help turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
It's coming. Right to your neighborhood. And when it does, you may be surprised. It's your Social Security statement of your benefits, and it's going to help you plan your financial future. Your benefit statement will tell you how much Social Security you're eligible to receive and when you'll get it. Then you'll know how much you need to save for retirement, because that's coming too. The future is in your hands. Choose to save.
The toxic fumes from this meth lab are seeping into Jamie's sinus cavity. Ammonia vapors invade her throat. Toxic gases fill her lungs. Jamie's body is deteriorating. And she doesn't even know it.
Jamie, dinner.
So, who has the drug problem now? Find out how meth affects you at drugfree.org/.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of EmeraldPlanet and Director and host of EmeraldPlanet TV. We come to you on a weekly basis to bring you the best practices that we've been able to identify in over 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, which are the technologies, the services, and the products that are helping us as we move through the 21st century. And looking at moving to 2050 and how we're going to be able to take care of a planet which then will have about 9 billion souls to provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, the basic infrastructure, and of course the education, healthcare, transportation, everything that we need to put all this together. And we have a gentleman that's going to be joining us that's looking at all these various issues and under the theme of resiliency. This is Dr. Thomas Houlihan. He is a consultant from the Alternative Petroleum Technologies Organization. He's coming in by Skype out of Reno, Nevada. And we have right beside me our good friend and buddy, Charles H. Botwick, who is the Managing Director for the Dulles Tech and Trade Center. And he's the Skype backup for this, so if we lose Tom off of Skype, then Chuck and I are going to continue right along and keep chatting away. But Tom, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
How do you do?
Well, we're certainly glad to have you, and give us a brief overview of your global organization. It's called the Alternative Petroleum Technologies, and why is such a curious name?
Well, Alternative Petroleum Technologies is an advanced fuel development company located in Reno, Nevada, the biggest little city in the world. And we like to think of our technology as the biggest little technology in the world, in the sense that we add water to oil, all forms of oil, to make it burn better. So for instance, we are the only fuel technology, emulsified diesel fuel technology, that has been verified by the EPA and has been certified by the California Air Resources Board.
Well, we're really glad to have you here, Tom, and to talk about this. But we're talking about this resiliency, and something that you brought to our attention is this Resiliency Capacity Index. And we have actually the slide of that up on the screen behind us. So what is the RCI, and what does it may mean as far as recovery of various communities around the globe that actually have some catastrophic environmental or economic stress, or may undergo some kind of natural disaster?
The RCI, the Resiliency Capacity Index, was developed by Dr. Catherine Foster, who was a MacArthur Fellow at the University of Buffalo, my old hometown. And it was released in 2011, and it's based essentially on 12 socioeconomic factors, the ones that are shown in the slide. And it measures the capability of a area or a region to essentially rebound from a disaster. We think of resilience as we do with a rubber band. You pull a rubber band and it goes back to its original form. It's resilient. So essentially what we're looking at is a situation where the area suffers a disaster, man-made or natural, and can come back to essentially a living form, not necessarily as complete as before, but not in complete devastation.
Well, looking at these 12 areas that you're talking about, Tom, and this cuts across the local level and communities, at the regional level, maybe counties, larger metropolitan complexes and all the way up to states and even nations, depending on the size. How do you balance between these different areas so that you actually enhance the resiliency of these communities, even though these may be low asset or low performing areas, and at the same time they may be stressed already, and then you add this natural disaster or this climate change impact on top of the stresses they already have?
Well, the thing to notice, Sam, is that in the factors that are put forth for consideration in this RCI, there are no physical measurements. And that's one of the aspects that we were trying to bring forth with regards to the technology. There's a new technology that is just brewing called the Internet of Things. And this is developed from the fact that we now have very smart sensors that can be deployed globally. And when I say smart, unlike before, they can tell you where they are, in addition to tell you what they are measuring. So that in this case, unlike the socioeconomic factors that were applied to determine RCI before, what we're looking at is a situation where you can deploy a full suite of all of the necessary sensors, temperature, pressure, emission factors, et cetera, so that you can characterize a community, you can essentially flex the community's response to a disaster, improve the community's response, and hopefully overcome any kind of severe destruction.
Well, we're talking about the areas that actually low asset, low performing areas and going through this stress. But if you have a community that's labeled as high or very high as far as resiliency, is it easier for them to recover under a large-scale environmental and economic stress, or is there special conditions that must be addressed regardless of whether it's very high, medium, or low resiliency?
Again, when you're looking at the present situation where you have the economic factors that are put forth, the social interactions that are put forth to measure, say, the capability of a region to respond, there is no guarantee that the resources within that community are going to respond. It may be a situation where they would like to, but the, say, teleconference facilities or the communication facilities are down, which is a technology base. And therefore, what we're putting forth is the fact that now, in addition to the determinations that have been made from a broad-based point of view, you now can go in and look more perceptively at the situation that the technology can give you a better picture of.
Well, looking at all of this wonderful information, Tom, that you shared with us, I know that we jumped ahead just a little bit, but as you know, we have Charles Botwick. He goes by Chuck, Managing Director of the Dulles Tech and Trade Center, who is a good friend of yours. And I'm going to let him ask the next question as it relates to this IoT. Chuck?
Hi, Tom. Wonderful to have you here with us.
Thanks, Chuck.
In terms of the Internet of Things, this is very interesting evolution in terms of how it may play out for resiliency in the future in terms of sensors and feedback of information. Tell us a little bit more about what this really means and how it can play into further research for resilience.
What it is, Chuck, is the fact that, again, we have a suite of instrumentation that can not only tell you what it is designed to tell you, i.e. here's the temperature at this particular spot, but it also can tell you, here I am. This is exactly where I am GPS-wise. So for instance, the European Union has a, quote, test city in Santander, Spain, where they have embedded sensors in the pavement that can tell you what the flow of traffic is. They can tell you if there's a backup. They can tell you if there's a stand down. And in addition to that, they can also give you the emissions levels within the area. So if there is indeed a problem, it can put forth the fact that this is an area to avoid in your transport, and just as well, it can alert people to go to emergency situations.
So this is a real-time. This is a real-time feedback. Some people call it cybernetics. In a way, what you're getting is what they call for the human body proprioception. You're getting real-time information about your situation.
Exactly. And from that point of view, now you have, in my mind's eye, a perfect opportunity, first of all, to put the sensors in the proper positions so that you can fully characterize a region. Secondly, you can flex the sensors just for a response as is. Thirdly, you can take a look at a situation where you would like to change some things, i.e., let's look at the increasing the response time so that we locate the fire station here rather than there for the majority of problem areas. And finally, you can prepare the area to again account for a incoming disaster, both man-made as well as one that is caused by nature, so that the response can be not only predicted, but also sustained.
Tom, we're about ready to run out of time. As you know, we never really have enough time to get over all aspects of the topic. But what do you see as far as your organization, the Alternative Petroleum Technologies, and this IoT, the Internet of Things? How is that going to help shape the future? And we only have about 30 seconds.
What we're looking at, very frankly, right now is operations in China. We've been very intensely involved in alleviating their emissions situation.
Tom, we got 15 more seconds and then we got to be out.
And from that point of view, we're trying to combine both IoT as well as our advanced technology with regards to emulsified fuel.
Well, thank you very much. This is Tom Houlihan, who is a consultant for the Alternative Petroleum Technologies, and Charles H. Botwick, who is the Managing Director of the Dulles Tech and Trade Center. And it's always great to have you with us. Chuck, thank you for being with us. And Tom, thank you for being with us. And thank you, dear viewer, for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.